You have one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. Your personal protective equipment, or PPE, helps protect you from on-the-job hazards. In order to deliver optimal performance, the components of your PPE, turnout gear, helmet, hood, gloves, and boots, require regular inspection, maintenance, and cleaning. There are two types of inspection: routine and advanced. A routine inspection is the responsibility of the individual firefighter. Specially trained personnel perform advanced inspections. Advanced inspections need to be conducted at least once a year. Your department should maintain a record of the annual advanced inspections and keep them on file. The purpose of this video is to teach you how to perform a routine inspection. A routine inspection should be performed at least every 6 months and after each use of your PPE, regardless of the date of your last inspection. It's highly recommended that you perform a routine inspection before starting your shift. It only takes a few minutes. The goal of the inspection is to be proactive in discovering damage or wear that could compromise the performance of your equipment. If you detect damage to your PPE during a routine inspection, notify the proper department personnel immediately. Never wear gear you suspect is damaged. One of the biggest threats to your turnout gear is exposure to light, whether it is generated by the sun or fluorescent fixtures. Prolonged exposure to light can severely reduce the strength of fabric and seams in your gear and greatly impair its ability to provide protection. Discolored fabric is one symptom of overexposure to light. If you observe discoloration in either your outer shell or on the face cloth of your thermal liner, contact the proper department personnel immediately. You should also review your storage practices. It's important to note that exposure to light can also degrade the seams of your gear without leaving visible signs of damage. That's why it's important to examine all seams on all layers of your turnout clothing for loose threads, breaks, skip stitches, or weaknesses. Pay very close attention to seams in high-stress areas, such as shoulders, elbows, crotch, and knees. The best way to deal with exposure to light is through prevention. Store your PPE in a dark, dry, well-ventilated room. Never store protective clothing in direct sunlight, indirect sunlight, or in fluorescent light. Never store your bunker gear in a lighted bay area, the back of a car, or near a window. Never hang protective clothing out in the sun to dry. It only takes a few days of exposure to light to severely weaken and damage the protective fabrics of your gear. All inspections require clean gear. Dirt can hide signs of damage. If your bunker gear is soiled, it needs to be cleaned. Spot cleaning can be performed on small localized stains. If the soiling is more extensive, it will require machine washing or washing by a professional cleaning service. Whether you're spot cleaning or machine washing, never use chlorine or a chlorine-based product. Chlorine will degrade the protective fibers of your turnout. Turnout gear should be cleaned at least every 6 months. It and all PPE components should be cleaned immediately if they have been contaminated or exposed to blood, bodily fluids, tars, fuels, oils, resins, paints, acids, or any other hazardous materials. Check your department's standard operating procedures or manufacturer's instructions on how to clean and what detergents are suitable to use. Always inspect your gear in a clean, well-lighted room. Begin by examining the outer shell. Look closely for thin spots, holes, tears, discoloration, or embrittlement. If you discover damage, remove the liner system. Then test the outer shell strength. Grasp the part of the fabric you suspect is damaged with both hands. Now, try to push your thumbs through the fabric. If you can, then the garment requires an advanced inspection by trained personnel. Examine all outer shell reinforcements. Reinforcements are usually located in high compression or wear areas such as your coat's shoulders, elbows, and cuffs, and your pants cuffs and knees. Check protective wristlets for shrinkage, elongation of thumb holes, loss of elasticity, and seam integrity. One way to help prolong the wear life of your wristlets is to doff your coat properly. Grasp the sleeve cuff and pull your arm and hand out. This wristlet has become worn because the firefighter habitually removes his coat by grabbing the wristlet and tugging, forcing the wristlet to bear the entire weight of the coat and any tools he may be carrying. Inspect your coat and pants for missing, burned, loose, melted, or torn trim. Loose trim that maintains its reflectivity should be resewn to the garment. If you suspect your trim's reflectivity performance has been compromised, here's an easy field test you can perform. Stand at least 20 feet from the trim in question. Hold a bright, focused beam flashlight at eye level, either next to the temple or on the bridge of the nose. Aim the light beam at the garment's trim. Note the brightness of the reflected light. Now, do a side-by-side comparison with a sample of new trim. Replace the trim if the reflected light is substantially less than that seen on the new trim. All closure systems on your coat and pants need to be inspected to make sure each is intact and operates properly. Examine hook and loop closures for worn, abraded, or melted pieces that may require replacement. If lint or other objects have accumulated on the hook portion, it can affect the performance of the closure system. Lint is most likely to accumulate during washing. To help prevent this from happening, make sure all hook and loop closures are engaged. Examine all zippers and hardware for functionality and corrosion. Make sure the suspender attachments to the pants are secure. Test suspenders for ease and sureness of adjustments, loss of elasticity, and seam integrity. Any loss of functionality or detection of corrosion in any item of hardware should be brought to the attention of trained personnel for assessment. Find the safety labels, cleaning instructions, and manufacturer's identification labels. Make sure all labels are legible and securely affixed to the components. If any are missing, loose, or illegible, contact trained personnel who should contact the manufacturer. Examine your liner system after each exposure to high heat. Look for discoloration and unusually thin spots where the thermal liner has been damaged, become compressed, or is separated. In addition to your routine inspections, trained personnel should inspect your thermal liner and moisture barrier at least once a year. After 3 years of use, your moisture barrier needs to be separated from the thermal barrier and inspected by trained personnel or an authorized clean and repair center. Before starting your shift and after exposure to high heat, check the substrate of your moisture barrier for discoloration. If it has discolored, the film may be damaged and should be inspected by trained personnel or an authorized cleaning and repair service. This level of inspection requires that both the outer shell and liner system be evaluated together. If you suspect your moisture barrier is leaking, conduct this field test. Place the liner over a bucket or wastebasket on a flat surface. Pour 1/2 cup of water on a randomly selected 2-inch circle on the outer side of the moisture barrier. If water passes through to the thermal barrier, the moisture barrier is damaged and will not prevent liquid from an outside source from passing through to your thermal barrier. Such leakage can compromise your safety. Immediately inform trained personnel, who should remove the liner system from service and send it to the manufacturer or an authorized cleaning and repair center for repair or replacement. Coats manufactured to meet the latest edition of NFPA 1971 standards are equipped with a drag rescue device, or DRD. Check the DRD to make sure it's stowed properly. Try on the coat to check for comfort and proper fit. If you feel tightness in any way, remove your coat. Check for twisting of the DRD between the shell and the inner liner. Adjust it, then recheck the fit. If you detect or suspect any problems with your DRD, contact trained personnel immediately. Inspect your helmet before starting your shift and after each exposure to impact, high heat, or chemicals. Check the shell for cracks, dents, abrasion, thermal damage, bubbling or soft spots, and contamination. Check the reflective trim for dirt, melting, loss of retroreflectivity, and separation from the shell. Examine the inside of the helmet for dirt, cracks, deterioration, or other damage. Look for torn straps, torn leather pad, breaks, or dirt in the helmet suspension system. Inspect the headband for tears, breaks in the plastic connectors, broken or loose adjustment ratchet, dirt, and sweat. Check the face shield and/or goggles for cracks, charring, distortion, damage from heat or flames, missing or loose adjustment knobs, and dirt. Inspect the ear and neck protector for tears, dirt, signs of light damage, or combustion products. Your helmet should be cleaned at least 2 times a year. You'll also need to inspect your protective hood before starting duty. Examine it thoroughly for shrinkage, loss of elasticity, seam integrity, dirt, thin spots, holes, tears, embrittlement, burned or discolored areas, abrasion, worn spots, or other signs of weakness. Make sure the face opening seals securely. Any weak or thin areas should be brought to the attention of trained personnel. Your hood should be cleaned according to your department's SOP. Hoods can be cleaned by hand or machine. You can also spot clean your hood if the soiling or staining is concentrated in a small area. As with all protective clothing, never store your hood where it is exposed to direct sunlight, indirect sunlight, or fluorescent light. Inspect your gloves after any exposure to high heat, chemicals, firefighting agents, cleaning, repair, or decontamination. Examine the shell for dirt, thin spots, holes, tears, embrittlement, burned or discolored areas, abrasion, or worn spots, and other signs of weakness. Examine all seams for loose threads, breaks, skip stitches, or weaknesses. Test the glove's protective wristlets for shrinkage, elongation, loss of elasticity, and seam integrity. If you suspect your gloves are no longer watertight, inform trained personnel. Gloves are difficult to repair. It's usually more cost-effective to replace damaged gloves. Boots should be inspected monthly or after each exposure to high heat. Examine boots for delaminating seam seals, punctures, thin spots, tread wear, loss of elasticity, and waterproofness. If you discover damage in your protective footwear or suspect your boots are no longer waterproof, notify trained personnel for assessment. Advancements in PPE offer you unprecedented levels of protection. Like any piece of high-performance equipment, your turnout clothing, helmet, hood, gloves, and boots need to be maintained properly and on a regular basis. It only takes a few minutes to conduct a routine PPE inspection. Those few minutes could save your life.